Hello and welcome to the course entitled How to Dispose of Leased Office Space. I am your host, Gabe Burke, and I'm a managing director with Cushman & Wakefield, which is a global real estate solutions firm. This course can be utilized by anyone who will be involved in the process of subleasing, assigning, or negotiating an early termination of leased office space. My goal is to give you a general understanding of what's required when your company determines that it needs to dispose of excess space. This course will help you gain insight into the risks and challenges involved with a lease disposition. I will teach you how to minimize liability and avoid pitfalls. Dispositions are not fun or exciting, but they're often necessary, and if you can handle them effectively, you'll be a valued asset to your company. The main thing to understand about real estate is that it's simply an asset that you utilize to help your business succeed. So it's important that your real estate portfolio is aligned with your business goals. Understanding how to dispose of unneeded space will help you accomplish that. The concepts we will cover in this course are the following: reviewing your lease, how to determine your offering, knowing your asset's value, marketing, responding to an offer, pursuing a termination, and finally, drafting and executing documents. One final comment: this course is not for real estate experts. It was designed for those who wish to gain a basic understanding of commercial office space leases. It was done from the tenant's perspective, and it is not intended for building owners. I hope you find it not only informative, but a whole lot of fun. Let's get started. The process usually begins when your company realizes that it has or will have office space that it doesn't need. This can happen for a variety of reasons. For example, you might be downsizing, moving to a bigger location, or doing something called right-sizing, in which you create a more efficient workplace, thereby reducing the amount of space you need. Also, mergers and acquisitions can often create excess office space as business units combine and others shut down. There are generally two ways to dispose of leased office space before the expiration date. The first is a sublease, and the second is a lease termination. There's also something called an assignment, in which a new tenant is willing to take over your lease with no changes. However, those are quite rare for reasons that I'll describe later. Before you start, the first thing to realize is that real estate doesn't turn on a dime. Marketing, negotiating, and consummating a lease is often an arduous process, with many moving parts, and so it usually takes longer than people expect. Many other aspects of business are nimble and can change course quickly. Real estate, however, is a cargo ship. The key point here is to prepare for a long process and manage the expectations of those above you. There are many executives who understand real estate, but there are also many who don't. They might have an unrealistic view of the process and wind up blaming you when it takes longer than they were planning. So make sure the people who are directly affected by this project, both above you and below you, are aware of the time frame. A great way to manage the expectations of people involved in the project is with a timeline. This will not only help you understand the potential length of the project, but also the tasks that lie ahead of you. Here's an example of what a timeline might look like. The way mine is laid out, each box represents 1 week, and I've estimated that this project will take 8 months. The to-do items on the left are broken into 2 categories: strategic planning and execution. You might notice that I've blocked out a long period for the task of procuring offers. The reason being that this is the slowest part of the process and often takes longer than people expect. To avoid confusion, I want to stress that this is just an abstract timeline, and each one you create should be custom for each individual project. Your broker can assist you with that. Here's a helpful tip when creating your timeline. If you complete a sublease, it will require execution of a landlord consent document, which is not required if you do a lease termination. Review your current lease to determine how much time your landlord has to give consent after you sign a sublease. Most leases require that after you negotiate and execute a sublease, the landlord must approve it before it becomes valid. This is generally done via a consent form that is signed by all 3 parties: you, the subtenant, and the landlord. The lease will probably specify how long the landlord has to review and approve the sublease once you've completed it. Sometimes people forget about landlord consent and then find out later that it's going to take another 30 days to get their sublease done. Put that in your timeline at the start, and there will be no surprises later. Finally, I must warn you that project timelines always change. You will need to continuously make updates as you move through the process. Despite that, they're a great way to set the stage for the time it might take to dispose of your unneeded office space.